Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm beyond excited to share with you the next chapter in this fairy tale-like love story between Ly Tu Diep, a humble, kind-hearted girl, and James, the cold and distant CEO who once locked away his heart due to the deep scars of his past. If you've been following the previous episodes, you'll surely remember the heartbreak, the tearful misunderstandings, and the moments when it all seemed to fall apart. But through it all, they learned how to trust and held each other's hand through every storm. Then, like a dream come true, they got married and left behind the noisy city to embrace a quiet life in the countryside. A place filled with birdsong, soft green grass, and peaceful morning light. But their story doesn't end there. Today, I'll take you into a new, captivating chapter where the past still lingers, new challenges arise, and their love will be tested once more. So, don't take your eyes off the screen. And if you're touched by their emotional journey, hit that subscribe button so you won't miss a single twist in this heartfelt and powerful love story of Diep and James. As soon as James received the letter from his mother, its handwriting shaky and urgent, his heart sank. In it, she spoke of a sudden flash flood that had devastated their hometown, sweeping away fields, homes, and the peaceful life that once existed there. Without a second thought, James and Diep packed their bags and left their quiet countryside retreat, determined to return to the place now struggling under the weight of disaster. When they arrived, the rain hadn't stopped. Heavy drops pounded the rooftops like war drums. Murky water flowed through alleys, creeping into yards and beneath doorways. In the dim light, faces of the villagers emerged, etched with worry and fear. The elderly, the young, mothers clutching their crying children, hungry, cold, and terrified. James was no longer the polished CEO. He rolled up his sleeves, pulled on a raincoat, and plunged into the rising waters. Alongside Diep and the villagers, he helped set up temporary shelters, using his own vehicle to transport food and medical supplies to the most isolated areas. Diep stayed close to the children, comforting each little one with gentle arms and a soothing voice. Some children even smiled through their tears as she wiped the rain from their hair and fed them warm spoonfuls of porridge. James joined local youths in rowing boats into the most flooded parts of the village, where families were still stranded. In one daring rescue, he swam into a house submerged halfway, carrying an elderly woman who could no longer walk and helping a pregnant woman on the verge of giving birth to safety. That night, as rain continued to pour, Diep and a team of volunteer nurses assisted in delivering the baby right at the temporary evacuation center. A child born in the heart of the flood, fragile but shining like a beacon of hope. At dawn, the waters began to recede. The sky, once a heavy gray, shifted slowly toward a lighter hue. All around was mud, destruction, and hollow gazes. Yet, amid it all, there were grateful eyes and quiet, exhausted laughter. James and Diep hadn't simply returned. They had become one with this place. No longer were they outsiders, no longer a wealthy man and a poor village. Just human hearts beating in unison, overcoming the storm together. After the floodwaters receded, they left behind ruined rooftops, barren fields, and countless dazed faces struggling to regain hope. But James did not turn away. He didn't see this place as just the village where he grew up. He saw it as home, a place where every single person deserved a second chance to rebuild. With all the resources at his disposal, James took action. He utilized funds from his company to begin restoring the area most heavily devastated by the flood. Makeshift shelters were replaced with sturdy, permanent homes, not only strong enough to shield from the rain and sun, but also warm, clean, and equipped for long-term living. James didn't stop there. He invested in the most modern irrigation systems, enabling the villagers to farm again on their very own soil. The once devastated fields were now reborn. Vibrant rows of vegetables stretched across the land, and early-season rice began to sprout, like miracles emerging from loss. He also established a local employment program to ensure a stable income for the people. Strong young men were trained as construction workers to help rebuild infrastructure. Women received guidance in producing organic crops and learning handicrafts to generate additional income. Even the youth were brought into free educational programs so that their future would not be swept away by the same storm that took their homes. Eventually, the story reached the media. News outlets quickly caught wind of this touching tale of a wealthy CEO and his wife working silently and selflessly in the shadows. They asked to interview him, to feature him on the front page, to share his inspiring deeds with the world. But James simply smiled and gently declined. He turned away from the cameras and the spotlight. In one brief but deeply meaningful reply, he said, "We didn't do this to be seen. We did it because this is home, and because no one should be left behind in the place where they belong." James and Diêp continued their quiet journey of dedication in the village that was slowly coming back to life, a place where they not only rediscovered the meaning of life, but also built a true home for each other. Every day, they worked tirelessly. James remained hands-on with the rebuilding projects, while Diêp stood beside the villagers, caring for children and tending to every little corner of their humble wooden house nestled in nature's embrace. Then, one peaceful morning, as the sunlight slipped gently through the thin curtains and bathed their small room in golden warmth, Diêp turned to James, took his hand, and softly placed it on her belly. She smiled, her voice trembling with emotion. "James, I'm pregnant." In that moment, time seemed to stop. James's eyes widened in disbelief, then slowly filled with emotion, like a wave of tenderness washing over him. He wrapped Diêp in his arms, his voice hushed and choked with feeling. "We'll get through everything, together, for our child." They held each other tightly in the gentle morning light, surrounded by the stillness of the forest and the overflowing love between them. It was a sacred moment, a silent vow that after all the storms they would nurture a brand new beginning. As time passed, Diêp went through her pregnancy enveloped in love and care. James was attentive to every detail, from meals and sleep to late nights sitting by her side, listening to the soft, fragile heartbeat of the little life growing inside her. And then, on a bright and radiant morning, Diêp went into labor. The entire village came together to help, guiding her to the wooden house that had been prepared as a makeshift birthing room. An old midwife, who had delivered hundreds of babies in the region, held the newborn in her arms as the baby let out her first cry. Gently wiping the damp curls from her forehead, the midwife whispered with trembling joy, "She's so beautiful and strong, just like her mother." James wept, and not just him. Neighbors, friends, and everyone who had stood with them through hardship rejoiced, their hearts overflowing as if the child belonged to them all. They named their daughter Hoa, a simple name, yet filled with hope. Hoa, meaning flower, like the first bloom after a long winter, like a promise of joyous spring, like the sweetest fruit born from a time of sorrow. As years passed, little Hoa grew up in the warmth of her parents' love and the tender care of a village that had witnessed her parents' devotion. One day, under a clear blue sky and a soft breeze rustling the trees outside their porch, Hoa sat in her mother's lap and asked her father, "Daddy, how did you and Mommy meet?" James glanced at Diêp, who smiled with eyes glistening, eyes that held a sky full of memories. He nodded, took his daughter's hand, and began telling her their story in a soft, steady voice, a story of love that had endured misunderstandings, separation, tears, and destruction. A love that had risen from ruins, hands still tightly clasped, stepping together through the storms of life. It wasn't a fairy tale with princesses or knights. It was a real story of two souls, once lost in their own brokenness, who found each other and created a miracle. From the journey of James and Diêp, we come to understand that true love doesn't lie in grand promises or poetic words. It lives in the quiet, unyielding choices, to stay through hardship, to hold on when everything else falls apart, to begin again with nothing but a sincere heart. And we also realize success isn't measured by wealth or fame, but by the depth of happiness. Waking up each day beside someone you love, sharing life's simple joys and building a home filled with laughter and peace. Many years had passed since baby Hoa let out her first cry. The once humble village had taken on a new form, more developed, warmer, and full of life. Lush green fields stretched across the horizon. Sturdy homes stood peacefully amidst nature, and children giggled as they played under the soft glow of the afternoon sun. It was a picture filled with hope, painted with the love and perseverance of James and Diêp. James was still there, with his gentle smile and ever-working hands. He was no longer the CEO of towering buildings in the city, but a simple man living in the countryside, finding true meaning in the laughter of villagers and in every step his daughter took as she grew up day by day. Diêp remained the loving woman she had always been, her tender eyes never dim with time. She still tended to every corner of their little garden, prepared warm family meals, and spent quiet afternoons telling fairy tales to Hoa beneath the shade of the flowering trellis at their porch. Their love was not loud or showy, but strong and steady like the mountains around them. It lived in the way James looked at Diêp when she smiled, in the way Diêp quietly poured him a warm cup of tea each morning, in the way their hands found each other when times were hard. In the silence they shared watching the sunset. No words needed, just the certainty that the other was there. It was a love that no longer needed vows, for time itself had proven everything. They had weathered storms, lost each other in the chaos of life, and still they chose to stay, together, with all their hearts. One quiet afternoon, now that Hoa had grown, James sat on the front steps of their home, watching her play with the village children. Diêp brought out 2 cups of tea and set them beside him. They looked at each other, saying nothing. Then James gently took Diep's hand, placed it over his heart, and whispered, "Thank you for never letting go. Because of you, I know what it means to love and to truly live." Diêp smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. Bathed in golden sunset light, they sat there, just two ordinary people, living a simple life. But their love was extraordinary, just like everything they had been through together. And perhaps true love doesn't lie in fairy tale endings, but in the long, winding journey where two souls keep choosing each other every single day for the rest of their lives.
Diêp vẫn luôn ở đó, với nụ cười hiền lành và bàn tay không ngơi nghỉ. Anh không còn là một keo ở những nhà cao tầng nơi phố thị, mà là người đàn ông giản dị sống giữa làng quê, tìm thấy giá trị chân thật trong từng nụ cười của người dân, trong từng bước chân con gái mình lớn lên mỗi ngày. Diệp vẫn là người phụ nữ đầy yêu thương, đôi mắt dịu dàng ấy chưa bao giờ tắt đi giữa ánh sáng của sự bao dung. Cô vẫn chăm lo từng góc nhỏ vườn, từng bữa cơm gia đình ấm áp, và những buổi chiều ngồi kể chuyện cổ tích cho con gái nghe với bóng ánh mắt của dàn hoa giấy trước hiên nhà. Tình yêu của họ không ồn ào, không phô trương, nhưng bền chặt như núi rừng quê hương. Là ánh mắt Diêp nhìn Diệp khi cô cười, là cách Diệp nặng nẽ rót cho anh ly trà nóng mỗi ngày, là những cái nắm tay thật chặt khi đối diện với những khó khăn, là những khoảng lặng cùng nhau ngắm hoàng hôn. Không cần nói gì, chỉ cần biết rằng người kia đang ở cạnh mình. Giữa ánh chiều rực rỡ, họ ngồi đó, hai con người bình thường, sống một cuộc sống giản dị, nhưng tình yêu của họ lại phi thường như chính những gì họ đã đi qua cùng nhau. Và có lẽ